Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. This time, we're taking a close look at what's happening in global cybersecurity as we move into 2025.
Sounds pretty timely.
It really is, and you've given me a ton of great stuff to work with for this one.
Oh yeah, reports, articles, even some of my own notes.
Trying to get a really good handle on this, right?
Yeah.
So let's just dive in and see what we can figure out about cybersecurity.
I think what's really fascinating is just how much this whole cybersecurity landscape is being shaped by these big, broader global trends.
Yeah.
You got these geopolitical tensions simmering, supply chains are like this tangled mess.
Yeah.
AI is like the shield and a weapon, it's crazy.
Yeah, it feels like a really pivotal moment, and this stack of stuff you sent me really kind of backs that up.
Yeah.
The World Economic Forum's Global Cybersecurity Outlook 2025 report is kind of it's a little concerning, right?
It is.
It talks about this widening gap between what they're calling the cyber haves and have-nots.
Yeah.
What do they mean by that?
Well, basically, larger organizations with more resources, they're just pulling ahead in terms of cybersecurity, right?
Okay.
They can invest in better technology, hire more people, build up those defenses.
Sure, they got more money to throw at it.
Exactly. And meanwhile, smaller companies, they struggle to keep up, and that leaves them vulnerable.
Makes sense, yeah.
And the report found that 35%, a full 35% of small organizations, they feel like their cyber resilience is just not enough.
Wow.
That's 7 times higher than it was in 2022.
That's huge. Like, what are the real-world consequences of that, of this widening gap? Is it just data breaches, or is it something bigger?
It can be way bigger.
Okay.
On a personal level, it could be identity theft, financial loss, even like damage to your reputation.
For sure.
For businesses, it could be disruption to how they operate, losing money, legal issues.
Right.
And even bigger than that, it can really undermine people's trust in digital systems.
Yeah.
Create this global instability in the economy.
It's like almost a domino effect, and like one weak link can really cause all this.
Think about that big IT outage back in 24.
Oh, yeah.
Cost billions of dollars. And it really showed how interconnected and vulnerable we all are.
It's kind of scary to think about. So then, what are the biggest threats we're facing in this crazy digital world? Is it still the same old stuff like ransomware and phishing?
Yeah, those are still huge concerns, but they're changed so fast and getting really sophisticated thanks in part to AI.
Okay.
Like ransomware is still a top worry, but now there's this thing called ransomware as a service.
I've heard that, but I don't really get it.
So imagine a dark web marketplace where anyone can basically rent these pre-made ransomware tools, even if they don't have the technical skills.
Oh, wow.
Some might even hire someone else to do the attack for them.
So it's like cybercrime on demand.
Exactly. It makes it way easier for criminals to make money, and it's hard to track them down.
Yeah, so you mentioned AI is making attacks even more sophisticated, right?
Oh yeah, AI is a total game changer for both the good guys and the bad guys.
Okay.
AI-powered phishing attacks are getting crazy good at tricking people.
How so?
They can actually analyze your online behavior, create these messages just for you based on your interests, and they can even copy the way people you trust write.
Oh, wow. So it's like a personalized scam.
Exactly, designed to target your weaknesses.
That's scary. But I thought AI was also supposed to be this big help for defenders, to stop those attacks.
It definitely can be. AI can analyze huge amounts of data way faster than humans, pick up on patterns, spot those anomalies that could signal an attack.
Right.
And it can even predict and prevent attacks by finding vulnerabilities before they're exploited.
So it's like an arms race, both sides using AI to their advantage.
Exactly. But what worries me is that a lot of organizations, they're just not keeping up with using AI for cybersecurity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the report said 66% of organizations know AI is going to be a big deal for cybersecurity, but only 37% have a plan to actually check if their AI tools are secure before they use them.
So they could be making themselves more vulnerable without even realizing it.
It's like giving someone a powerful weapon without teaching them how to use it safely. They could end up doing more harm than good.
Yeah, that makes sense. So besides all these AI attacks, are there any other threats out there that worry you?
One that's really troubling is the rise of what they call scam farms.
Scam farms.
Basically, it's these criminal operations that force people, often through human trafficking, to run online scams.
Oh, wow.
They're talking about over 220,000 people in Southeast Asia alone being trafficked for these scam farms.
So they're forcing people to be cyber criminals? That's awful. And what kind of scams are they running?
Everything. Phishing, social engineering, romance scams, investment fraud.
Oh.
They just churn out tons of stuff designed to trick people into giving up their money or personal information.
It's crazy to think about the people behind these cybercrimes, and you said over 220,000 people are being trafficked in Southeast Asia alone.
It's a global problem.
Is it?
Yeah. Southeast Asia has become a hub, but they're popping up all over the world, especially places with weak law enforcement and high poverty.
So it's not just a cybersecurity issue, it's like a human rights issue.
Exactly. It shows how cybercrime is becoming part of organized crime.
Okay.
These scam farms are basically criminal businesses, selling their expertise to other criminals.
It's kind of scary to think about, and it really raises the stakes. Organized crime, they don't mess around right.
Yeah.
Are there examples of this, cybercrime and organized crime joining forces?
One area where we're seeing it is attacks on critical infrastructure,
Okay.
like water facilities, power grids, hospitals, the stuff that keeps society running.
Right.
These are becoming targets not just for hackers, but organized crime and even countries.
Like what happened in Ukraine.
Yeah.
That was scary to see.
And the report said this is a global threat, right?
It's not just Ukraine.
No, water facilities, energy grids, transportation, all potential targets. And if an attack succeeds, the consequences could be devastating, like widespread disruption, economic damage, even loss of life.
That's a scary thought, and with these attackers getting more sophisticated, it's hard to imagine how we can stay ahead of them.
It's a tough challenge, and it's not just the immediate threat. The report also talks about these harvest now, decrypt later attacks.
Sounds ominous. What's that all about?
It's a strategy where cybercriminals steal encrypted data today, but they plan to decrypt it later when technologies like quantum computing become strong enough to break our current encryption.
So our data might be safe now, but not in the future.
Exactly. That's why we need long-term thinking in cybersecurity. We can't just focus on today's threats. We got to be ready for what's coming.
So how do we prepare for those future threats? Is there anything that can be done about these harvest now, decrypt later attacks?
One promising area is quantum-resistant cryptography.
Okay.
Researchers are developing new encryption methods that can withstand attacks from even the most powerful quantum computers.
It's like a constant race between the code makers and the code breakers, always pushing the limits.
Yeah, it shows how important constant innovation is in cybersecurity. The moment you stop moving forward, you're falling behind.
So we've got AI-powered attacks, scam farms, organized crime, and now quantum computing on the horizon. It's a lot to deal with. But besides all the tech stuff, isn't there also a human element to all of this? Like people make mistakes, they click on phishing links, they fall for scams.
Oh, absolutely. Even with the best technology, humans are still the weakest link. And that's where the cyber skills gap comes in.
Yeah, I hear about this skills gap all the time, but what does it really mean?
It means we just don't have enough skilled cybersecurity professionals to meet the growing demand. The report says we're short millions of cybersecurity professionals worldwide, and that gap's only getting bigger as the threats become more complex.
So it's not just about having the latest technology, it's about having people who know how to use it.
Exactly. But why is there such a shortage of these professionals?
Yeah, why is that?
Well, a few reasons. Cybersecurity is a pretty new field, and it's changing so fast that it's tough to keep up with the latest skills and knowledge.
Right.
Plus, it requires a unique blend of skills, technical expertise, communication, business sense. It's hard to find people with all of that.
So it's not just about knowing how to code or set up a firewall. It's about understanding the big picture.
Exactly. You got to understand how cybersecurity affects business and be able to explain these complex technical things to people who aren't tech savvy.
That makes sense. And the report talks about recruiting people from different backgrounds, not just the typical tech people.
Yeah, they're saying people with skills in communication, law, finance, even psychology could be valuable in cybersecurity.
So we need to broaden our idea of what a cybersecurity professional looks like.
Absolutely. Cybersecurity isn't just a technical issue anymore. It affects businesses, society, national security. We need people who understand all of that.
So it's about building a more diverse and inclusive cybersecurity workforce that can tackle these complex challenges.
Exactly. But it's not just about recruiting new people. We also need to keep the experienced professionals we already have.
Right. How do we do that?
That's a tough one. The cybersecurity field is known for burnout. It's demanding, the stakes are high, and things are always changing. It's no surprise a lot of professionals are feeling overwhelmed and stressed.
Imagine.
And that's a problem because when those experienced people leave, it weakens everyone's defenses.
Okay, so what can be done about this burnout and keeping those talented people in the field?
Organizations need to create a better work environment for these professionals,
Okay.
provide opportunities for professional development, encourage a work-life balance, and recognize how crucial their work is to protecting our digital world.
It's about showing them they're valued and supporting them.
Exactly. Empower them to do their best work.
Yeah, but ultimately, doesn't it come down to leadership? Don't we need leaders who understand how important cybersecurity is and are willing to make it a priority?
100%. The report really emphasizes that strong leadership is essential for building a cyber-resilient organization.
Okay.
Leaders need to set the tone, provide the resources, and give their teams the power to make the right decisions.
So it's about moving away from this idea that cybersecurity is just an expense, right?
Exactly.
It's an investment.
It's a strategic investment that's crucial to the long-term success of any organization.
And that's where the role of the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer, becomes really important.
Right.
It used to be that the CISO was just the tech person in the basement. But that's changed, hasn't it?
It's changed a lot. Now CISOs are becoming key advisors to the top executives and the board.
Okay.
They're the ones who have to explain these complex technical risks in a way that business people can understand.
So they're like the bridge between the tech world and the business world.
Exactly. And ultimately, it's about creating a culture of cybersecurity awareness and resilience throughout the entire organization.
So it's not just the IT department's job.
No, cybersecurity has to be part of the organization's DNA, woven into their culture, strategy, decision-making process.
It's about everyone, from the CEO to the interns, understanding their role in protecting the organization.
Exactly. And I think that's a good place to shift gears and dive into some of the specific strategies that organizations can use to navigate this complex world.
Sounds good to me, but first let's take a quick break.
Sounds good.
All right, so we've covered a ton of ground already,
We have.
from like how the threat landscape's changing to the role of AI.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, but just knowing the problems, that's only half the battle, right?
Yeah.
What can we actually do to deal with all this, both individually and as organizations?
Mhm.
How do we navigate this crazy digital world?
Well, the good news is the World Economic Forum report, it doesn't just point out the problems, it offers solutions too.
Okay, so
One big takeaway is the need for what they call a security-first mindset.
security first. Okay, what does that actually look like, though?
It's about changing how we think about cybersecurity.
Okay.
Instead of seeing it as something we deal with after there's a problem, we need to make it part of everything we do online.
So it's kind of like when you build a house, you think about security from the very beginning, not just try to add it on later.
Exactly. And it applies to individuals just as much as it does to big organizations.
Okay,
Think about the things you do to stay safe in your everyday life.
right.
You lock your doors, you set up security systems, maybe you even shred important documents, right?
Yeah.
A security-first mindset for the digital world is the same thing.
Gotcha.
It's about being proactive, being careful, and making security a part of everything you do online.
So for individuals, that means strong passwords, watching out for phishing emails, keeping software updated, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But what about for larger organizations? How do they adopt that mindset?
Yeah, how do they do that?
It starts with the leaders.
Okay.
Leaders have to make cybersecurity a top priority, not just something for the IT department to handle.
So it's everyone's responsibility, not just IT.
Right, and it goes beyond what happens inside the organization, too.
Okay.
They also need to be proactive about working with others and sharing information.
Okay.
The report stresses the importance of public-private partnerships. That's a key strategy for becoming more resilient.
Public-private partnerships. What does that look like for cybersecurity?
It means understanding that no single organization, no matter how big or how advanced, can handle cybersecurity alone.
Okay.
We got to break down those walls, share information about threats, and work together to respond.
Makes sense.
It's like a neighborhood watch, but for the digital world.
I like that analogy.
If one house sees something suspicious, they let everyone else know, right?
Right. So are there any real-world examples of these kinds of partnerships working?
Oh, yeah. There are groups like Computer Emergency Response Teams or CERTs and Information Sharing and Analysis Centers, ISACs.
Okay.
They do important work by bringing together experts from different industries, governments, and organizations to share knowledge and resources.
So it's about using the collective knowledge of the group, understanding that we're stronger together.
Exactly. And this kind of collaboration is even more important now that cybercrime is becoming more organized and sophisticated.
Right. Got to stay ahead of the bad guys.
We have to share information quickly and effectively if we want to stay ahead.
Makes sense. The report also mentions regulations for setting some baseline security standards. What's their take on that?
They say regulations can be a good thing and a bad thing.
Okay.
On the one hand, they can be crucial for setting minimum security standards for everyone and ensuring that organizations are taking cybersecurity seriously.
Okay, so that levels the playing field.
Right. But on the other hand, too much regulation can slow down innovation, create unnecessary burdens, and be tough to enforce in a world where technology changes so fast.
So it's a balancing act, finding that sweet spot.
Exactly. Finding regulations that are strong enough to be effective but flexible enough to keep up with all the changes.
And it's not one size fits all, right?
Yeah.
Different industries will have different needs.
For sure. Regulations need to be tailored to each industry, considering the unique risks they face.
Makes sense. Now, we can't talk about cybersecurity without addressing the skills gap.
Yeah, that's a big one.
The report points to this as a major roadblock to improving global resilience.
It's huge.
What are they recommending to tackle this challenge?
They suggest a multi-pronged approach, not just training more people, but making sure they have the right skills and attracting talent from diverse backgrounds.
Okay.
They're talking about a combination of traditional things like university degrees and certifications, along with more innovative approaches like apprenticeships, boot camps, and online learning platforms.
So we need to be more creative in how we develop cybersecurity talent.
Exactly. And it's not just about technical skills.
What else is there?
We also need people who are good communicators, problem solvers, critical thinkers.
Yeah, soft skills.
You need more than just knowing how to code. You have to understand the human element, the business side of things, and the broader impact on society.
It's about building a well-rounded workforce that can approach cybersecurity from different angles.
Exactly. But it's not just about having enough professionals, it's also about their quality.
Right. We need to make sure they can handle the increasing complexity of the threats.
We need to provide ongoing professional development, encourage continuous learning, and foster a culture of innovation in cybersecurity.
If we want to stay ahead of the curve, we need to attract and keep the best people.
Absolutely. You know, we often focus on the technical side and the threats, but what about the economic side of cybersecurity?
Yeah, that's a good point. How does the report address that?
They say we need to start thinking about cybersecurity in terms of money.
Okay.
Put a dollar amount on the cost of cybercrime and the return on investment for cybersecurity spending.
So it's not just about preventing breaches, it's about protecting the bottom line, the reputation, the future of the organization.
Exactly. And this is where it gets interesting for business leaders.
Oh, so?
They need to start thinking about cyber risk the same way they think about any other business risk. Assess the potential financial damage of a cyber attack, and then decide how much to invest in cybersecurity.
But isn't that a tough calculation to make? The threats are always changing, and the cost of cybercrime is hard to measure.
It is tough, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try.
Okay.
There are tools and methods to help organizations assess their cyber risk and make smart decisions about where to spend their money.
Right.
And the more we talk about cybersecurity in terms of money, the more likely leaders are to understand its importance and provide the resources to build strong defenses.
So it's about making a strong business case for investing in cybersecurity, not just focusing on fear.
Exactly. It's about showing how investing in cybersecurity is investing in the future of the organization.
And it's not just big companies that need to worry, right? Small businesses are at risk too.
Absolutely, and they often don't have the resources to protect themselves properly.
Yeah, that makes them easy targets.
The report stresses that we need to help smaller organizations improve their cybersecurity because their vulnerability affects everyone.
It's like a chain. The weakest link can break the whole thing.
Exactly. It's in everyone's best interest to help raise the bar for cybersecurity across the board.
Makes sense. So we've talked about national level and individual level, but what about international cooperation?
Yes, crucial too.
Especially in a world where cybercrime crosses borders so easily.
Right.
What does the report say about international cooperation?
They emphasize that cybersecurity is not just a national issue. It's a global challenge that requires countries to work together.
Okay.
We need to share information, coordinate responses, and develop international rules and standards for cyberspace.
But that sounds really complicated.
It is.
How can we get countries to cooperate effectively when they have so many different interests and levels of cyber maturity?
It's a challenge, but it can be done.
Okay.
The report points to diplomacy, capacity building, and law enforcement cooperation as key areas for international collaboration.
What would those look like in practice?
Well, diplomacy is about making international agreements and setting norms for behavior in cyberspace. Okay.
Hmm.
Capacity building is about helping countries that are less developed improve their cybersecurity
Makes
capabilities.
sense.
And law enforcement cooperation is about working together to track down cybercriminals and bring them to justice, no matter where they are in the world.
So it's a multifaceted approach involving governments, businesses, and organizations working together.
Exactly. It requires a shift in thinking, understanding that we're all in this together, and that our collective security depends on our willingness to cooperate and share responsibility.
It's a big task, but an important one if we want a digital future that's both innovative and secure.
Definitely.
And it seems like organizations like the World Economic Forum are playing a crucial role in getting this global conversation going.
They are. They bring together leaders from all over the world to talk about these issues, share best practices, and come up with solutions together.
It's about building bridges, not walls.
Exactly. Recognizing that we're all in this together and that we need to work together to create a safer and more secure digital future for everyone.
A great message and a perfect time to recap what we've learned so far. Okay, so we started by, really getting into like how the threat landscape's changing and how, like geopolitics and AI, how they're impacting cybersecurity.
Right, right. And then we talked about some possible solutions.
Yeah.
Things like that security first mindset, public private partnerships, and dealing with that cyber skills gap.
And of course, how important international cooperation is, like seeing cybersecurity as a global challenge,
Yeah.
not just a national one.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It is. It is. So we've talked a lot about these big picture trends and, strategies for organizations.
Right.
But what about our listeners?
Yeah.
What can they take away from all of this? Like, what can they actually do?
That's a really good question because cybersecurity, it's not just about governments and companies.
Hmm.
It's about all of us, every single one of us.
Yeah, for sure.
If I had to boil it down to a few key takeaways,
Okay.
I'd start by saying that cybersecurity, it's not just an IT issue anymore. It's a fundamental part of our digital lives.
Right.
It affects our privacy, our finances, even our personal safety.
So we have to take responsibility for our own cybersecurity.
Exactly. We can't just rely on others to protect us. We have to be proactive.
Be proactive. So, like, what can people actually do to, be more secure?
Start with the basics, like strong, unique passwords for every online account.
Yeah.
Turn on that multi-factor authentication whenever you can.
Okay.
Be careful about phishing emails and suspicious links.
Right. Don't click on everything.
Keep your software updated. Think about using a good antivirus program.
Those are all good tips, and they don't require you to be like a tech expert.
No, not at all. It's about being aware and developing good habits.
Right. Being smart about it.
And don't be afraid to ask for help. If you're not sure about something or you think you might have been hacked,
Right.
reach out to someone you trust. There's a ton of information online and through organizations like your local consumer protection agency.
And it's important to remember that cybersecurity is always changing, right? What might be a strong password today could be easily cracked tomorrow.
Right, so staying informed and adapting to new threats is crucial.
So how do we stay informed?
Pay attention to the news, be aware of the latest cybersecurity trends. There are great websites, podcasts like this one
Right. Shameless plug.
that provide good information and insights.
Yeah, for sure. And something else we talked about. Nobody can handle cybersecurity alone.
It's true.
Collaboration is key, whether it's between governments and businesses or just between individuals and their communities.
Exactly. We talked about those public-private partnerships.
Right.
But that same idea of collaboration, it's important for individuals too.
Okay.
Talk to your friends and family about cybersecurity, share tips, be a resource for each other.
It's like creating a cybersecurity support system.
Exactly. A culture of cybersecurity awareness where we look out for each other and help each other stay safe online.
Right. Being aware and looking out for each other, especially those who might be more vulnerable, like seniors or people who aren't as comfortable with technology.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about recognizing that everyone has a role to play in making the digital world more secure.
Everyone has a part to play. And one last thing I think is really important, thinking long-term.
Yes, long-term thinking.
Cybersecurity isn't a one-time fix, it's an ongoing process.
We talked about those harvest now, decrypt later attacks, where data that's stolen today could be decrypted in the future with new technology.
Right. Scary stuff.
So protecting ourselves today isn't enough. We need to be thinking about the future.
Future-proofing.
Exactly. Investing in technologies like quantum-resistant cryptography that can help us stay ahead of the curve.
So it's all about being prepared and ready to adapt as the cybersecurity landscape keeps changing.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, there you have it, folks. In a world where everything's connected, cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility.
It really is.
It's not just about protecting ourselves individually, it's about protecting us all.
Right.
We have to work together to build a safer and more resilient digital future for everyone.
Couldn't agree more.
We hope this deep dive gave you some valuable insights and some practical steps you can take to stay safe online.
Thanks for listening.
And thanks for providing all this great source material for us.
Of course.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.